Also over I'm gonna get started. So today I am actually hold on. Am I in the matrix? It could be because you need to turn your sound down on, if you're on both shows, you need to turn your sound down on one of your devices. So that's probably why. I don't know. Is everyone else okay? Hold on, let me see if I can adjust a couple of things. Hold on, let me check something. Is that better or? Okay, good. Good. Okay, let me. Okay, so I am actually doing a show that I did when I first started podcasting. One of the first shows I did before I came on the Podbean. And if you guys want to look it up on YouTube, it's episode 43. And this is about Black Hollywood, or remembering Black Hollywood, because, you know, before we have Martin Luther King, there were people who came before him. And as there are in every generation, there's always somebody who came before somebody else. But these particular people, I think, have been forgotten. And even though we may turn on an old show, an old black and white show, and we'll watch it and we see these people, but again, they're people that you see, but you don't know. They're people who, they're actors that without them, um, a movie could have been totally different. A movie could have been totally different. And one of the first people I want to bring up is my favorite Black actor. Her name is Teresa Harris. And Teresa Harris is one of those people who, she was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman, beautiful woman, beautiful Black woman. She was born in 1909 in Houston, Texas. Um, she graduated with academic honors. Um, she studied at UCLA, the conservatory at UCLA. Um, and she joined the Lafayette Players, which was a pioneering African American theater company. And she debuted on Broadway in 1933 in a Broadway called Louisiana. Hey, GP, welcome. But Teresa Harris, again, she's one of those Black actors who was just that gem. She was one, like I said, she is my favorite Black actor of all time, hands down. Hands down, she is. Um, if any of you remember Barbara Stanwyck, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you do, she played with Barbara Stanwyck in a movie that was pre-code back in 1933 called Babyface, and that was when, before the people were coming around saying, you can't do this, you can't do this, and we had, G-rated R's, X's, before all that came about. She starred in a movie called Babyface, where she was Barbara Stanwyck's equal. She was uh, she was still a maid, because back then, which was typical of the time, and most of Teresa Harris's screen roles, she was a maid or a waitress or hat check girl, just a stereotypical thing. Um, and as a member of the Screen Actors Guild, she pushed for better roles for Black performers. But in Babyface, she had the opportunity, and I do say opportunity because it was rare in Hollywood that they allowed Black actors at that time to be on the same level with other white actors, and the two were equal as one could get, at that time. And she played a character by the name of Chico, and it's one of my favorite movies. And again, it's a black and white, and it was her first credited role. And she was Barbara Stanwyck's maid, but she was also her friend. I mean, she wore fur coats, she wore diamonds. She did everything that the white women were doing, you know. But she's an actress that is largely forgotten, and she's someone who, if you guys get a chance to, see some of her movies, she's really very, very good. And as I said, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. Um, she ended up marrying a doctor. Uh, in the 70s, she was inducted into the uh, Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame in 1974, and she died in Inglewood, California, October 8th of 1985. So that is one actor that people have forgotten about. And another actor who people often confuse with Teresa Harris is another actor by the name of Freddie Washington. Freddie spelled Fredi. And her career was, again, she was on Broadway. Most of her roles were as maids, but her best known role was in Imitation of Life, not the one with Lana Turner in the 60s. This was the original one in 1934 with Claudette Colbert. And she was the one who played the light-skinned black woman who chose to pass as white. Her mother was supposedly Claudette Colbert's partner. Her mother's recipe was, which was made Claudette Colbert, her character, rich. You know, but even though her mother was the one who provided the recipe, her mother was still, you know, relegated to the room in the back of the house because they lived together. But her mother had gotten into a situation with a white man, had a baby, and back then, you know, in the 30s, it was still risque to do a movie like that. And Freddie Washington played the interracial girl who chose to pass as white, because she could not deal with how her mother was treated and just how Black people were treated at that time. But that is her most famous role. But she's been in many. She was opposite, you know, Bill Bojangles Robinson. She was also a very, very talented actor who chose to leave Hollywood for radio. Freddie Washington is definitely someone that you guys should look up. She died in the early 90s. I think she was like 90. She was in her 90s too, and passed away in the 90s. Another person I want to talk about is Lincoln Perry. And some of you guys may know Lincoln Perry as Stepin Fetchit. And he was the actor in he was a Black actor in Hollywood who, to this day, a lot of Black people have a hard time with his role because he was the one who, yes, a massa, no, some massa, yes, a boss, no, some boss. You know, he was the one that was doing that. But in his roles of doing that, Lincoln Perry, aka Stepin Fetchit, became a millionaire because of those roles. And with those roles, with the money that he made, from playing those type of degrading roles, because they were, he was able to help other Black people who were starving, couldn't pay rent. He helped other Black actors of that time who fell on hard times. So as much as people, you know, say how he made his money, especially Black people who are critical of him, of how he made his money, he also did good with his money. And he's, you know, and people say that with Lincoln Perry, he was playing, you know, the what's what I want to say. He was playing the old massa role, the old massa. You know, he would you know, he played roles that depicted Black people as lazy, which some people think that we are. You know, but he was also playing the old massa where slaves used to do the old massa thing when they were around other white people to get them to do the work. It was a con job. And Lincoln Perry understood that. He understood what it meant to be a Black actor in Hollywood at that time. He understood. He understood that they were relegated to being in their place. But again, the money that he made, and unfortunately, he did not die a millionaire, but that money that he made went for good. And he does have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Another person I want to talk about is Hattie McDaniel. A lot of you guys may know her as the maid from Gone with the Wind. You know, she was this big black woman, who, was respected, quote unquote, but she was still a slave. She was still a maid. And Hattie McDaniel played a lot of those roles. That's all she could get. One of her wishes, and she was also, through her roles, she also became one of the first Black actors who became millionaires. And again, I say you have actors who, if they weren't in the movies, it could have been an entirely different picture. And people have said, and I also believe, because I've seen Gone with the Wind so many times, if Hattie McDaniel were not in that role, or that role were not in that movie at all, it would have been a different movie. It would have been a different movie. And when Gone with the Wind came out, Clark Gable, who played Rhett Butler in that movie, he and Hattie McDaniel were very good friends. Every year, Hattie McDaniel gave a party at her mansion. Clark Gable always went. He just didn't pop in and make an appearance. He stayed throughout the entire party. And they just didn't socialize just once a year. They socialized all the time. And Clark Gable caught flack from other actors in Hollywood for hanging out with that Black woman. But on the eve of the premiere of Gone with the Wind, and some of you all may know the story, because the movie predominantly took place in Georgia, it was premiered at a movie theater in Georgia, which did not allow Black people. And when they were allowed, they had to sit in the balcony. But for the premiere, they didn't want any Black people there at all. And Clark Gable fought to have her there. She was part of the cast. She was a main part of the cast. And they did not want her there. And the studio really didn't do much to help her cause. The only person who really stood up for her was Clark Gable. And he said that he was not going to go unless she was allowed to go. And the studio knew how important it was for Rhett Butler to be at the premiere of Gone with the Wind. It was important. This movie took months and months and months and months and months and months to make. They went through different directors. They did this, they did that. It was like the biggest hush-hush in Hollywood was Gone with the Wind. But Hattie McDaniel told Clark Gable, no, you need to go. I will stay home, which he did. The movie was a success. Hattie McDaniel was the first Black woman to win an Academy Award. But once again, at the award ceremony, she was not allowed to sit with the rest of the cast. She sat by the kitchen. She sat at a table by the kitchen. That's where she had to sit. And when she accepted her Oscar, she couldn't even say what she wanted to say. The studio wrote out her acceptance speech. And that's why you have something in there about her being a credit to her race. But Hattie McDaniel had she played in a lot of movies. She was in a lot of movies, and unfortunately, her she ended up getting cancer before, and she passed away. But one of her greatest wishes was to be buried in Hollywood Cemetery. That's where she wanted to be buried. But in the 50s, like most cemeteries in the country, they were segregated, and she was not allowed to be buried there. Her nephew has since put a cenotaph in Hollywood, which is now known as Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And there's a cenotaph there for her. But she's not buried there. And even in death, she was treated like the help. Another person that I would like to talk about is Sammy Davis Jr. Now, you're probably saying, why is Sammy Davis on your list? Well, Sammy had an interesting life. He had an interesting way to Hollywood. And, he's most known as Mr. Bojangles. He was the one who sang that and what have you. And he was another one who died poor. But Sammy was not only was he talented, not only was Sammy talented. Wait, hold on for a second, guys. I gotta move something over. Okay, not only was Sammy talented, but he had moxie. I mean, here's this man who was 5'6" and 120 pounds. He was born December 8th of 1925 in Harlem. And he was a tap dancer. His mother was either of Puerto Rican or Cuban descent. But he was definitely an Afro Cuban or Afro Puerto Rican, however you want to say it. But he learned to tap dance from his dad. And in the 40s, 43, 44, he went to the military. And Sammy's nose was jacked up, for lack of a better way to say it, because it was broken so many times. He was frequently abused by white soldiers from the South. And his nose was constantly broken. And finally, it was permanently flattened. He was constantly given beer laced with urine until the military saw his talent and they transferred him out of that particular company, I guess, and he went to the special services where he performed in front of the same soldiers who had abused him. Then came the issue with Sammy Davis's eye. And this happened when he was on Route 66 and a woman missed her exit and she was backing up to exit. And before, he didn't have enough time to back up and get out of her way, that he rammed into his car, but he hit his face, mainly his eye, on the horn portion of the steering wheel. And back there in the 50s, the steering wheels, they weren't padded the way they are now, and it was like, you know, this big steel thing, and he hit his eye and he lost his eye. So that's how he lost his eye. A lot of people also don't know that Sammy Davis Jr. was a very accomplished gun handler. Very accomplished. Hey, the only crazy lady, welcome. I didn't see you pop in. He was very accomplished. I mean, Johnny Cash, you know, even would marvel at how he would go to these gun shows and, you know, in these competitions. And by all accounts, Sammy Davis Jr. could outshoot anybody, anybody. And in some of the movies that he was in, some of the TV shows he was in, he was able to show his handling of a gun. But he was one of the best. He was even better than the stunt doubles, and he was an avid gun collector. So let's fast forward to the late 1950s when he had an affair with Kim Novak. If anyone knows who Kim Novak is, I am dating myself because I am a Kim Novak fan. But Kim Novak and Sammy Davis were involved in this affair. And because Novak was white, there was a lot of backlash against Columbia Pictures. And they knew that that relationship could hurt the studio. And Kim Novak was under contract with Columbia Pictures. But Sammy was threatened by organized crime people who were close to Harry Cohen, who was the president of Columbia. And Cohen, you know, called a racketeer by the name of John Rosselli to stop seeing Novak, or he would lose his other eye or broken leg, and he was to marry a black woman. And Sammy sought the protection of Chicago mobster Sam Giancana. But he did marry a black woman. Her name was Lorraine White. And Sammy paid her 20, I think it was 20,000, 25, 20,000. It was somewhere along that line, 20,000, 30,000, somewhere along that, to marry him and stay married to him for a year, but they had to break up within a year. And that kind of took the heat off of Sammy for a while. But then we have Mae Britt. Mae Britt was an actress who Sammy married. She was Swedish. And the thing about Mae Britt was black people and white people were offended because Sammy married this white woman. But the thing that really got Sammy was in 1960 when President Kennedy was having his state dinner, and he had invited most of the Rat Pack, you know, Frank Sinatra, Richard Lawford, I do believe. But he asked Sammy not to come because he was hosting President Kennedy was hosting people from the South. And, civil rights was still going on and what have you. And President Kennedy, who had been friends with Sammy Davis Jr., said, please don't come. You can come to the next one. Sammy Davis didn't go. He never stepped foot in the White House while John Kennedy was president again, and he never spoke to President Kennedy again. Sammy Davis was a really, really good actor. Really, really good. He was a good performer. And I'm glad that I can say that, and I'm dating myself, that I had the opportunity to see him on stage live in his one-man show, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. He was phenomenal. The other person I want to talk about is Harry Belafonte. And again, you all may say, well, he's not forgotten. He's important. Harry Belafonte is important. He's in his 90s now. Very much still the activist that he was way, way, way back when. But Harry Belafonte, again, like most Black actors back then, you have to, they had to really work. And he became famous with his album Calypso, because he was a Jamaican American born in 1927, March 1st. He was a confidant of Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. And Paul Robeson was an actor that he really admired. And I'm going to talk about Paul Robeson too. But Harry Belafonte, he was handsome, in my opinion. Still is. He was the one who could sing. He was that Black actor who would mesmerize you, just with his when he would, sing the Banana Boat song, and how he would move, and he was just good. He was a good actor. But back in 1968, he made history. Welcome, Chill. Welcome. He made history because what he did was, or what was asked of him by Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was going to go on vacation for a week, and he asked Harry Belafonte to host the Tonight Show. Back then, Black folks didn't host the Tonight Show. We were lucky; we even got a chance to sit on the sofa. And what Harry Belafonte did was, well, first of all, ABC did not like Johnny Carson's choice, and Johnny Carson was like, "Nope, this is who I chose. This is who is going to do it." But Harry Belafonte, being the civil rights person that he was, like I said, he was very close friends with Dr. King. He was very much into civil rights. He was very much, and he still is, for a 95-year-old man, he is still very, very active in civil rights. And he took advantage of the week on Johnny Carson to talk about Black America. And what it did was, it was one of the first times that white America, that, you know, here's this Black man coming into their living room every night for a week. They saw another side. They saw another side of Harry Belafonte, welcome Jester, and they saw another side of Black America. And that's what Harry Belafonte did for that 1 week. And it was also a week that when he was hosting the Tonight Show, it was one of Johnny Carson's on the Tonight Show. It was one of his biggest and best weeks, where it was the most listeners. And Harry Belafonte took the opportunity to have other Black guests on the show. And again, this was 1968. You know, even then, you still didn't do that. But that's what Harry Belafonte did. And he still went on. You know, some of my favorite movies with him was, you know, Uptown Saturday Night with Bill Cosby. You know, some of those quote unquote Black movies, which I still don't understand what the difference is between a Black movie and a white movie. I still don't understand the distinction, but it's out there. But that's what he did. But again, one of his biggest influencers that he had was Paul Robeson. And some people may know who he is, but Paul Robeson was born in 1898. He passed away in January of 1976. And he was known for not only his acting and his political stances, but boy, could he sing. Could he sing? I mean, he was trained. He was an opera singer. He could sing, and he was educated. He was educated. He was a college educated man, law school, but the acting bug caught him, and he wanted to act. And one of his most famous roles, and again, you know, I may be dating myself, I don't know, but I like old movies. I like old movies. And another movie that I've seen many times is Showboat. And it's a musical. And Paul Robeson, if anyone knows the background of Showboat, just about a boat, you know, that would travel from state to state. People would come on board, and they, you know, the boat would dock, and people would come on board, and, you know, they have a show, you know. But Paul Robeson, during Showboat, he sang Old Man River. He sang Old Man River. And the producers didn't want him to sing that. They wanted him to sing, and this is how it was in the trades. They wanted Paul Robeson to sing a plantation song, and Paul Robeson, being the man that he was, and having the respect for himself, I'm not singing that. And he sang Old Man River. Hey, Shy Lady, welcome. Paul Robeson was blacklisted. He was blacklisted, during that whole, what do you call it, what was going on during that time in the 50s, the McCarthy era, whatever, when a whole lot of other actors were blacklisted. Um, but he was blacklisted. Um, and he was not able to um, act in a lot of movies during that time, like a lot of other blacklisted um, actors. But see, one thing that was different with Paul Robeson and other black actors who were blacklisted at that time compared to other white actors who were blacklisted at that time, he was talking about civil rights and equal rights. He was publishing things that people like us were not supposed to publish. And it hurt his career. It really hurt his career. But in the end, Paul Robeson should be remembered for his acting, his political stance, his pre-civil rights stance, and most of all, the fact that he was trained as an opera singer. And boy, did he have a voice. The other person that I want to talk about is James Edwards. Now, James Edwards, if it were not James Edwards, we wouldn't have a Sidney Poitier. And this is where I say that and this is where I'm trying to say this as best as I can. This is where I'm going to talk to black folks. And this is when I say that we need to remember the people who came before us because they paved the way. They paved the way. They paved the way for other people. And James Edwards was another one who paved the way. He played in movies like Home of the Brave, The Steel Helmet, Bright Victory, all of which I saw. A lot of war movies. I do like old war movies, whatever. The Manchurian Candidate, but he was most known as George Patton's personal valet. Valet is actually how you say it. In the film Patton, he was Sergeant Major William George Meeks. But he was always that soldier who got in trouble. He wasn't supposed to be here. You weren't supposed to be there. What are you doing over here, boy? What are you doing over? He always played those roles because those are the only roles that he could play. Hey, Power Girl, welcome. Those are the only roles that he could play. But he was someone that Sidney Poitier looked up to. and Sidney Poitier respected and actually helped Sidney Poitier along the way. Welcome, Crucible. There are so many actors out there. You have, Oscar Michel, Lillian Randolph, Herb Jeffries, Nina Mae McKinney, Noble Johnson, Madame Soltaire, Slim Thompson, Ernest Morrison. There's just so many, so many, so many. You look at someone like Josephine Baker, who popularized the banana dance in France. I mean, a lot of these actors had to go overseas in order to get recognition because they cannot get recognition here in our own country. I mean, there's just so many. You have Lena Horne, who, even though she had technically, by all accounts, depending upon how you want to look at it, a successful career, it could have been better, who was also in Showboat. Or was supposed to be. Her role went to somebody else. See, Showboat, one of the main things, or one of the main movie roles, or I'm sorry, lines in Showboat, or characters, whatever, was a mixed woman who was, well, actually she was black, passing as white, and she gets kicked off of the boat because someone who wanted to be with her she didn't want to be with them, so he told on her. It was back in the 1800s. You don't have that race mixing. You don't have, black folks who were passing for white. They couldn't tell they were doing that. They couldn't tell that they couldn't say that they were white because, I'm sorry, they couldn't tell white folks that they were black because it wouldn't end well. And Lena Horne was supposed to be in that movie, but she couldn't be in the movie. They let her go because the powers that be realized that the audience would not accept this woman who truly was black having this affair on screen with this white man. She was let go. She was replaced. Lena Horne was a beautiful woman. And I can say again, I saw Lena Horne, I'm dating myself, and I saw her in the 80s in Chicago on stage. Breathtaking, fascinating. And it's interesting how a lot of these black actors, they were all somehow, some way tied up in civil rights. I mean, here, you have Lena Horne performing at the Cotton Club in Harlem. But what was funny about the Cotton Club in Harlem, it was only for white folks. A black person, somebody like me, I couldn't go into the Cotton Club and sit down and want to have a drink or have dinner. Only way I was coming into the Cotton Club is if I was either a performer or I had a mop and bucket. I don't know. You know, there's just so many, so many, so many. You know, it was rare that people of color had heroes in a movie. And when I say people of color, I'm talking about all people of color. Because if you watched a Western, cowboys and Indians, which you shouldn't say, cowboys and Native Americans, welcome serotonin. Um, they always lost. The cowboy always won, or the settlers, they always won. Wonder why. You know, I'm a fan of westerns. I like watching shows like Laramie, Lawman. I like westerns. I like them. Cheyenne, Tales of Wells Fargo. I'm naming stuff some of y'all probably never heard of. And I look at those, and Shine Lady, I do see you. I am going to pop over to you. I look at those shows. In fact, I was looking at a show the other day of Lawman, and it was a white woman playing the role of a Native American, and then I was watching another one where there was a a white man playing the role of an Asian. And I'm saying to myself, they didn't have any Asian actors back there that they couldn't give in that role to, or any, you know, Native American actors or Latino actors that they could not have given that role to. I mean, you have Al Jolson who would perform in blackface because they wouldn't allow a black person on stage. So, you know, on a day like this, it's not just about remembering Martin Luther King and the contributions that he made. And yes, he had his faults. Martin Luther King definitely had his faults. But I look at people I look at him as a man and what he did. He paid the ultimate sacrifice. He played the ultimate sacrifice for his beliefs. He was assassinated. And when I look at Black Hollywood, when I watch some of these movies, and you know, sometimes I'll watch a movie just to see the black actor in there because I'm just fascinated. You know, but now we have shows like, you know, The Little Mermaid, where it's a black actor and people losing their minds. They're talking about Idris Elba being the next James Bond, and people are losing their minds. I don't understand. One thing that just made my heart feel so good was when I saw, you know, that video of a little black girl watching the Little Mermaid, and she turns around, she goes, "Mommy, she's black." Yeah, she is. And the next person who plays the Little Mermaid should be Asian or Latino, Native American. I mean, in reality, has anyone ever seen a mermaid before? How do you know what color they are? But there are a lot of black actors who have been forgotten. Who you look at the Denzels and all these other people who wouldn't be where they were if it weren't for these other black actors, if it weren't for the Freddie Washingtons and the Teresa Harrises and the Oscar Michos. Shy Lady, welcome. I apologize for being so long winded. No. Yeah. Allowed to go at all. I agree with you, but at the same time, we always have a group of people who, you know, they may have had it with the Holocaust. You always have. I don't want to say this. You always have a group of people that will always oppress another group of people, even though they were oppressed. You know, I mean, to be fair, and I'm playing both sides here. I mean, black people do it. You know, I don't I don't understand some of the things that our own people do. You know, and sometimes I totally understand why they do some of the things things that you do. But when it comes to Hollywood, you're right. Back then and even now, Hollywood is very much um, run by Jewish people. Um, And, certain people are able to do this, certain people aren't. I worked in entertainment. I worked in different phases of it. I saw what was going on. Very few people in Hollywood make it. Very, very few people. Every white woman can't be Meryl Streep. Every white man is not going to be Clint Eastwood. It's just not going to happen. Every black man is not going to be a Denzel. It's just not going to happen. Every black woman is not going to be, I like to say, even though a lot of people don't know who she is, Teresa Harris. Hollywood only lets in who they want to let in, but there are some that they let in more and some that they don't. They don't let in at all. It's a dog eat dog industry. It's an industry where they say, if you want this role, you have to have sex with me. I've seen it. It's a role. Well, if you want me to, talk you up to my producer, you have to, go out with me, or I'll give you this role if you, give me that on that role. But you look at who's running the studios. And Charlene, this, before you came on, I said that this was one of my first shows when I was first podcasting, and it was episode 43, and you were on that episode. And you guys want to see the photos of the people that I was talking about, look up episode 43, go on YouTube. You have to scroll all the way down. That was my post Podbean days when Charlene and Junior were the only ones on. I still laugh at that. You all have stuck with me for so long. I appreciate it so much. You know, there's just a lot of good talent out there, period. There really is. But black talent, it just always amazes me. It always amazes me. Because that talent back then, those were movie stars. They weren't celebrities, those were movie stars. They had that star quality. And they had to work so hard to be seen. And when they were seen, they were the maid or the butler. Or as I said before, they were Lincoln Perry, aka Step and Fetch It. So, Charlotte, do you have anything else you want to add? I mean, well, unfortunately, how do we get there? How do you make it like that when people are complaining that a fictional character with the Little Mermaid is a certain color? How do you fix that? How do you fix it when, you have a fictional character like James Bond, that people are complaining that this person, a black person may be offered this role of this fictional character. We're not talking about a black man playing George Washington or a white man playing Frederick Douglass. Real people. We're talking about fictional characters. How do you fix it when you have people who are making TikToks complaining that a fictional kingdom in Black Panther called Wakanda used the word colonization, and they're having a fit over it, that is starting to spill into the political world? Yet you're not complaining when Quentin Tarantino makes all these movies and he drops the N-word I don't know how many times, and he thinks it's okay because he's a producer, or all these other movies that are out here who are dropping the N-word or talking about, Latinos or whatever. How do you fix that when you always will have someone who's going to get upset and complain? The only thing we can do, for me at least, for my foreseeable thing, is I just appreciate the people who came before me. I appreciate the people who are there. I recognize them. I see them. And I support them. I mean, unless you can think of another way. But guys, thank you very much for coming. This was like my little special episode. And I am going to repeat something. And I had a conversation with someone last night, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they are somebody who, they are on Podbean. And I'm just going to say this, and I hope that you guys truly understand where I'm coming from and take me to heart. And even if you all are not here in this show right now, if you all listen to it on the download, whatever, I consider myself a nobody. Yes, I get kudos. Oh, Solid, you have a great show. But I have people who don't like my show. I have people, in fact, if you follow my TikTok, you'll be seeing something coming up on there soon. But I consider myself a nobody. The fact that people come onto my show, I appreciate it so much. Even if one person showed up, and that's when I go back to Shy Lady, when you and Juju, I mean, literally, if you guys go back and look at my first shows, Juju and Shy Lady were there. They were the only ones. I mean, I was on a bad platform. I was on Zoom, but the fact still stands is they showed up. They showed up all the time. And they sat there with me. And on the days that they would say, hey, I won't be able to make the show because I have to do this, I have to do this, I sat there by myself and I plugged away because I wasn't going to give up. I had something that I wanted to say. But the fact that people come and listen to me and you all don't have to, that makes my heart thump. It truly does. I'm not looking for recognition. I'm not looking for affirmation. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just doing my show. If I was on here by myself every, 4 days a week, I would just be talking to myself for, 4 days a week. But the fact that you all show up, and Shy Lady, as you know, that's how I was raised. Never give up. But again, I don't want to make this about me. I'm not on MSNBC. I'm not Fox News. I'm not BBC. I'm not CNN. I'm not anybody like that. People don't know who I am. I don't have 50,000 followers, whatever. I just have people who take time out of their day in the middle of their day to listen to me. And Power Girl, it still tickles me. But the fact that you do it when you text me, you put in the chat that time that you listen to me in the bathroom of your job, or you have to go somewhere to listen to me because you're not allowed to listen to earplugs. I mean, that right there, that, oh my God, it's the fact that people take the time to do that. So please understand, guys, when I say that I appreciate you, I truly, truly, truly mean I appreciate you. I don't expect people to be here every day. I don't expect you guys to be here at all. But the fact that you show up and you stay, and you may disagree with me, and we can push back on each other, whatever. Because one thing I don't ever want anyone to do, I don't want anyone to ever come into my room and feel like, well, Solace, she's going to say this anyway, so why even say this or this or this? If people have something to say, I want you to say it. I want you to say it. And I have been called out for me pushing back on people. Yes, I will. And I expect you to push back on me if you disagree, because when I say that I want my platform, that I want to hear what everybody has to say, I meant it. As long as you're not dropping racial slurs or calling people out of their name. Come on, you guys have been on my shows. And I do consider myself an open person. But again, I go back to you all, because if it weren't for people, even that one person, I wouldn't have a show. I mean, I would still have a show, but it wouldn't be a show. So I say thank you. And Shy Lady, I'm, even though I know we're friends and what have you, but you did not have to do that. You did not have to stick with me the way you and Juju stuck with me from day one. You didn't have to do that. So on that note, guys, I'm going to end the show. I'm really trying to keep it to an hour, y'all. I really, really am. So Shy Lady, once again, anything else you want to say? If not, I'm going to choose Well, thank you, my friend. I do appreciate it. And with that, everyone, I will be back tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tuesday? I don't know. For some reason, Jason seems like a Sunday. I will be back tomorrow. And I'm going to leave you with I didn't upload any new songs, so I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if I did this one last time or not. I need to start writing down the outro music that I do. This is called Mountain Path, and please enjoy your day or weekend wherever you are in the world. And as I always say, go where the wind takes you, because the wind has taken me many, many places. So thank you. And that's it, everyone. Again, enjoy your day. Welcome, Woody. We are signing off here. Enjoy your day or weekend wherever you are in the world. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.